Good day, everyone. Welcome to Real Conservative News. I'm your host, Nathaniel Rajkumar. Starting off locally here in Trinidad and Tobago. Opposition leader Pennelope Beckles stated that the newly elected UNC administration immediately declared a state of emergency to trick citizens, but actually has no crime plan. Speaking at a PNM Sport and Family Day, Beckles accused the current government, of failing to implement security solutions and trying to blame the PNM constituencies for the ongoing countrywide murder wave. She strongly rejected government claims targeting certain members of parliament, arguing that the ruling party is solely responsible for national security and that criminal activity is currently taking place in every single corner of Trinidad and Tobago. My response: if patriots in PNM areas stop committing most, because she's talking about it here happening throughout the whole of Trinidad and Tobago. Yes, we know that, Penny. But the vast majority of crimes, the vast majority of gang-related killings occur in PNM hotspot areas. So patriots in PNM areas stop committing most of the crime in TNT, then no one will be able to make such a factual claim, Penny. Statistics don't lie. PNM constituencies are plagued with gang culture, turf wars, and weed, the drug weed. Now listen to some facts, people. Facts that I obtained online, showing you the hypocrisy of the PNM. You know, they're saying all of a sudden now they're saying that it is the entire blame is to be placed on the government. And to an extent, as a matter of fact, they're not right. It was never, even when the UNC used to be saying it in the past, I didn't agree with it either. I agree that the government needs to do their part to be able to legislate laws and ensure that the police service enforces those laws and that we have an effective, law-abiding, legitimate police service. I believe in all those things. But we're talking about the hypocrisy of the PNM, because when they were in office, their narrative was totally different. Neither Dr. Keith Rowley, and let me just add one more thing. You see, this is why I was warning, but I'm just a humble person here in Sangre Grande in Trinidad and Tobago, not really with a very large following or anything like that. But I was warning about this SOE from the very beginning. I knew it was a bad idea. And now the PNM is using it against the UNC, even though the PNM was also using it as a crime-fighting strategy. But the information that I obtained online, neither Dr. Keith Rowley, or as I call him, the Emperor Rowley, nor Pennelope Beckles ever took full responsibility for Trinidad and Tobago's crime crisis while the PNM was in government between 2015 and 2025. Instead, their comments consistently blamed outside factors, including the opposition, UNC, a lack of legislative support, and societal failures. You see how they're blaming the UNC now that the UNC in government? They were also blaming the UNC while UNC was in opposition. It's always the UNC's fault. Critics and political analysts pointed out during their tenure that the administration frequently deflected blame for the country's escalating murder wave and security issues. While in office, Rowley framed violent crime largely as a public health issue. And you really want to talk about the UNC not implementing effective measures? While I don't agree with the SOE, they have been addressing crime at different levels, including the war against narco-terrorism in the support of the war, because they are not fighting any war, but the support of the war against narco-terrorism in the Caribbean region. So both leaders maintain that the executive could only pass laws and provide resources, frequently arguing that the failure of local institutions and the judiciary prevented their strategies from working. And the thing about it is they were correct. Now, they weren't really doing a good job of legislating anything. A lot of the times the UNC had to oppose stuff because there were hidden clauses. Well, not really hidden, but there were clauses within these laws that would have been infringing upon the democratic rights of citizens. And that is why the opposition UNC at that point in time opposed a lot of these laws, right? But it was incompetence at the highest level within the PNM for the past 9.5 years. And that is why the UNC inherited such a lawless nation. Having said that, I continue to believe and agree that it is never the fault of the government alone when it pertains to crime. Crime, the government has to do their part, definitely, legislate new laws, reform the TTPS to ensure that it becomes a law-abiding agency, law enforcement agency, and also a competent agency, an agency that has law enforcement officers that are capable of solving crime. We need to increase the detection rate. But besides that, people, we also need to address the gang culture that has been plaguing our entire nation. But it exists more in the PNM constituencies than anywhere else in this country. Gang culture, weed worship, drug trafficking, human trafficking, exploitation of women, and so forth. These things take place mostly in the PNM districts. Turf wars. So this is statistical facts. This is not about trying to just wrongfully stigmatize certain areas. We all know no one feels free or safe to travel at any hour of the day to places like Laventil, Sealots, Beetham, many places in Diego Martin now. Now, there are some places that will be considered UNC that people wouldn't dare go either. A lot of places in Shogunas. But the vast majority of hotspots in Trinidad is definitely under the PNM control. And that's just the reality. But you see, the Kakash media and the PNM will always try to use the race card and talk about stigmatization and wrongful stigmatization and stuff like that, when it's just statistical facts. Go and look for yourself and see where most of the murder cases are taking place. We are not saying that it doesn't have murders in South and Central and so forth, but the vast majority of murders in Trinidad and Tobago take place in PNM constituencies. Yesterday marked another significant milestone in healthcare delivery with the official launch of the newly relocated surgical outpatient clinic at the Port of Spain General Hospital. The upgraded facility features an enhanced patient-focused environment designed to improve accessibility, efficiency, comfort, and the overall quality of care for patients accessing surgical outpatient services. This relocation represents a major step forward in strengthening healthcare delivery and creating a more modern and supportive clinical experience for both patients and staff. This achievement forms part of the Northwest Regional Health Authority's ongoing commitment to providing care with compassion, ensuring that our communities continue to benefit from improved healthcare spaces and services. And it didn't take the UNC government 5 years or 9.5 years to accomplish this.
The weather in Trinidad and Tobago on Tuesday, May 19, 2026 will be partly cloudy, hazy and breezy with a high temperature of 32 degrees Celsius. According to the Trinidad and Tobago Meteorological Service, daytime conditions will bring isolated showers primarily late morning through early afternoon. Temperature, daytime high of 30.
Regional news now. The Monarch Group has launched Monarch Bay, a 33-acre gated community, waterfront community in Ogle, East Coast Demerara, featuring Guyana's first Crystal Lagoon, 100 single-family homes, and 85,000 square feet of commercial space. You know, PNM patriots will say, oh, that is just for the upper class or the middle class. Jed, single-family homes. But anyhow, it's probably even still for those that have a higher income. But so what? Nothing is wrong with that. It's good to have an enriched and a well-established middle class. They are the gap. They bridge the gap between the rich and the poor people. And once they are comfortable and happy, the entire country ends up being happy because they feel more motivated to spend their money. But anyhow, which ends up benefiting the poorer class. Development by Claremont and Iman Cummings with US $20 million in financing from Citizens Bank Guyana. The project is currently in site preparation with phase 1 completion set for 2028. The Irfaan Ali administration won the election and still serving the people of their country in an exceptional way. The Office of Disaster Preparedness and Emergency Management got a failing grade from the Auditor General's Department for the financial management of funds donated to assist the victims of Hurricane Melissa that devastated western and southern sections of Jamaica on October 28, 2025. Jamaica is still struggling to recover. Examining the systems and practices of ODPEM in relation to the financial management of donated funds that doesn't belong to them, you know, people. Auditor General Pamela Monroe Ellis signaled that the relief agency performed poorly in 2 critical areas and in a third stance, barely met the criteria in carrying out its mandate. Corruption or what? Well, they're doing with the people money, eh? Opposition leader Dr. Ralph Gonsalves, PNM partner, ally in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, has raised concerns about the country's debt situation, stating recently on radio that there is both good debt and bad debt. Yeah, your debt while you were in office was good, eh? Yeah, Gonsalves, Ralphie boy. Dr. Gonsalves argued that while some borrowing can contribute to national development, the new roads and infrastructure projects being pursued by the NDP administration could significantly increase the country's debt burden and place additional pressure on working class citizens. So what you want them to do? Leave the country neglected the way your administration had it? They were voted off for that reason, bro. The former prime minister further claimed that more than 200 ongoing projects currently being continued by the new government are possible because funding had already been negotiated and secured under the previous Unity Labour ULP administration. You know, just like how Zami Young likes to take credit for almost everything that is being implemented and done by the United National Congress government, Kamla Persad administration here in Trinidad. Yes, and Tobago. He also alleged that the 24 major projects for which financing had already been arranged by the former government were abandoned or set aside by the current administration. Now, putting all that aside, or actually in addition to that, if in fact the present regime is abandoning important programs that were put in place by the previous administration that could benefit the people of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, then they need to stop that, because this is not about political games and spite or anything like that. As long as something can benefit the citizens of our country, go ahead with the program. The UNC does it to an extent. I think some of the decisions that they made here in Trinidad was bad, though, like when it pertains to like the forestry division and so forth. I don't think there was a need to shut that down at all. CPEP and URP was extremely corrupt, and that needed to shut down. But it's some of the other programs, one of the other, I can't remember the name of the Civil Conservation Corps or something like that, right? CCC, I think it is, right? That should have never been shut down either. There are certain things that the UNC is doing that they're making some errors, just like the government in St. Vincent and the Grenadines may probably be making some errors as well, and I hope it stops. Nevertheless, Gonsalves can't really talk, and he's just sounding like a pure hypocrite, just like the PNM at this point in time.
We paid the debt, we never defaulted for 25 years. We expanded the economy, carried out education, revolution, infrastructure, changes in all sorts of fields. I don't know this thing about that there's good debt and there's bad debt. And as I always tell them, tell me which of the debt which we incurred is bad debt. Tell me what it didn't advance the country. Tell me where it didn't advance the country. And I want to say this to you. In this very, they're talking about that, in these very estimates, as the IMF pointed out, this budget by the NDP is adding 19 percentage points of the GDP. This year, adding this year, over $570 million in debt. Some of this debt, which is being added, is good debt for good projects, which they continue in. In fact, I have a list of 200. Let me say this, 200 and let me give the number. Hold on, I'll tell you how many projects they continue in, the capital projects. 206 of them. Whatever you see is being done. They are, it's money which we raise, and leave there, Negotiate and leave there, and I'll talk about that just now. And these are the projects they continue in.
Barbados Minister of Transport and Works Kirk Humphrey has cautioned financial institutions against denying credit and loans to Transport Board employees over misconceptions regarding upcoming statutory changes, clarifying that planned restructuring aims to transition workers into business owners rather than leaving them jobless. The minister urged commercial banks and credit unions to evaluate these workers based on credit worthiness rather than rumors about their employment status. I hope that you really keep that promise, and those individuals don't end up being unemployed. Because if they do get their loans approved and then they don't have a source of income in order to repay those loans, you will be responsible for that. You will be the one that caused that, because they would have never been approved in the first place unless you intervened in this way. Let's just hope that you are a man of your word. ZNS Bahamas General Manager Clint Watson has been sworn in as a senator and announced plans to push for laws protecting the journalism industry. Now, before I go on with the news report from Bahamas, people are concerned that this man is still the head of that company while being a sitting senator. I don't know how they do things in Bahamas, but I mean, people are raising concerns about it. Should he remain or should he step down, even if it's temporarily, from his position while he's senator? Speaking after his parliamentary appointment, Watson stated that his legislative priorities will focus on communications and national governance. His agenda includes introducing and updating laws that impact journalism, advancing freedom of information, and modernizing overall public governance standards.
I'm a journalist. I'm in communications, ensuring that we put the right laws in place that impact journalism, that impact information. People have been talking about the freedom of information. People have been talking about acts that impact really governance in 21st century. I want to make sure that we put those in place so that we have a more progressive, modern country, modern governance, a modern style. And I'm excited to be able to do that, contribute on that level, and to help ensure that people understand that this is about succession. We're here now, but we're not going to be here years from now. And we have to put in place the module that people can feel there's an opportunity for them in their own country, and to train the next generation to be able to come up and to be able to function.
International news now. U.S. President Donald Trump announced that he called off a major military assault against Iran scheduled for today, Tuesday, after requests from Middle Eastern allies. They did it in the past and they're doing it again. They're just trying to delay the inevitable. Maybe it isn't even inevitable. Maybe Trump really wouldn't end up finishing the job. Time alone will tell. In a post on Truth Social, Trump stated that the leaders of Qatar, Saudi Arabia, and the United Arab Emirates, UAE, asked him to pause the strike because serious negotiations are underway to secure a deal that would prevent Iran from developing nuclear weapons. We've been hearing for that for more than a year now. They're always going to make some good deal with Iran. And then when you hear about the deal, it's total tata, something that the USA cannot accept. While Trump instructed Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth and the U.S. military to stand down for the scheduled operation, He warned that forces remain prepared to launch a full-scale assault on a moment's notice, so they haven't left the area or anything like that, if the peace talks fail to produce an acceptable agreement. People, President Trump, you know for a fact that the Ayatollah will never, ever agree to give up their enriched uranium or their capability to continue enriching uranium in order to develop nuclear weapons. They are not going to give up that ambition because they have been indoctrinated for generations into believing that Israel is little Satan and USA is big Satan, and therefore they will continue with their mission to destroy the infidels and usher in the coming of their Messiah, will rule the entire world and enforce Sharia law. You can't stop that. You have to finish the job in Iran. Question is, will Trump do it? And if he does, will that delay the Ezekiel war for a good few more years? Because if he doesn't, then I'm telling you, the Ezekiel war is around the corner. Iran will be supporting Russia, the king of the north. All the kings of the north will be uniting to invade Israel. But we know for a fact in the Ezekiel 38 says that God himself will lure them, you know. He will tell them, come. You want to attack? Come. Set a trap for them. And before they can enter Israel, he will utterly destroy them.
A little bit about your post on Truth Social on Iran, and what was the decision that why you didn't attack him?
Well, other countries have come to me and they've said we were getting ready to do a very major attack tomorrow. I put it off for a little while, hopefully maybe forever, but possibly for a little while, because we've had very big discussions with Iran, and we'll see what they amount to. I was asked by Saudi Arabia, Qatar, UAE, and some others if we could put it off for 2 or 3 days, a short period of time, because they think that they are getting very close to making a deal. And if we can do that where there's no nuclear weapon going into the hands of Iran, I think, and if they're satisfied, we will be probably satisfied also. We've informed Israel. We've informed other people in the Middle East that have been involved with us. And, it's a very positive development, but we'll see whether or not it amounts to anything. We've had periods of time where we thought pretty much getting close to making a deal, and it didn't work out. But this is a little bit different. Now, we're ready going tomorrow, very big, and not something I wanted to do, but we have no choice because we cannot let Iran have a nuclear weapon. Yeah.
The Islamic Republic, Iran we're talking about, the Ayatollah terrorist regime, led by the Ayatollah terrorist regime, is preventing repairs to critical undersea internet cables in the Persian Gulf by demanding permits and protection fees. In other words, they're extorting not just the vessels are passing through the Strait of Hormuz anymore, people. Everybody they want to extort money from, forcing the world's largest cable laying company to halt operations. And if the Kakash media in Trinidad approves of that as well, and the tribal Trinis, lovers of communism, lovers of jihadists. According to Windward, Alcatel Submarine Networks has paused all repair work after these demands. Extortion to the highest level by our government, a terrorist regime. These cables carry vital global internet, banking, cloud, and communications traffic connecting Europe, Asia, and the Middle East. Shut down the whole of that region. The same government known for imposing the longest internet blackouts in history on its own citizens, we're talking about Iran, is now creating major obstacles to maintaining this essential international infrastructure. I wonder if the Kakash media in Trinidad will even report about this. Going to shine a bad light on their precious Ayatollah jihadist regime. Freedom fighters in their mind, freedom fighters.
Bible quote of the day. Luke 21:1-6 NKJV. And he looked up and saw the rich putting their gifts into the treasury, and he saw also a certain poor widow putting in 2 mites. So he said, Truly I say to you that this poor widow has put in more than all, for all these have counted out of their abundance to the offerings for God, but she out of her poverty put in all the livelihood that she had. Then, as some spoke of the temple, how it was adorned with beautiful stones and donations, he said, "These things which you see, the days will come in which not one stone shall be left upon another that shall not be thrown down."
Folks, that brings us to the end of today's news report. Thanks again to everyone who continues to support my content. Please like, comment, share, and subscribe. Stay blessed and stay safe most of all. In Jesus' name.